The Formula One world was left in shock when Lewis Hamilton announced his move from Mercedes to Ferrari. A seven-time world champion, one of the greatest drivers in history, stepping into the iconic red machine. It was supposed to be a historic moment. But as the Australian Grand Prix approaches, things are not going according to plan. Hamilton is struggling. The SF-25 is proving to be a much bigger challenge than expected. A car that was meant to give him a fresh start might be turning into a nightmare. The issue? The Ferrari demands a completely different driving style, one that Hamilton is not used to. He knew there would be an adjustment period, but no one thought it would be this tough. Is this just a technical hurdle? Or is there something bigger happening within Ferrari? From the very first practice sessions, Hamilton has seemed at odds with the car, fighting it rather than controlling it. The numbers speak for themselves. Free practice 1. Hamilton finished in 12th place, lagging 0.6 seconds behind Leclerc, who was comfortably in the top 3. Free practice 2. A slight improvement to P5, but still 0.4 seconds behind Leclerc. In Formula One, tenths of a second can make the difference between a title contender and a midfield struggler. The most alarming part? Leclerc looks right at home in the SF-25, while Hamilton is still searching for answers. If this pattern continues, Ferrari might start treating Hamilton as the second driver much earlier than anyone expected. But what exactly is holding him back? One of Hamilton's biggest strengths has always been his aggressive braking. He's a master at braking late into corners, carrying speed in a way that unsettles his opponents. But the SF-25 demands something entirely different, a more controlled, smoother approach. This isn't a minor adjustment, it's a complete shift in driving philosophy. Braking. A fundamental mismatch. Ferrari's braking system seems to favor Leclerc's natural style. His ability to ease into the corners with a balanced approach gives him an immediate advantage. For Hamilton, this means either adapting quickly or losing crucial time in every lap. Rear stability. Hamilton's worst nightmare. Hamilton prefers a car with a stable rear, allowing him to push aggressively without worrying about oversteer. However, the SF-25 is designed with a more aggressive front-end setup, perfect for Leclerc, but unsettling for Hamilton. This could explain why he has been struggling to extract performance from the car. Tire wear. A potential race killer. Ferrari has had a history of struggling with tire degradation. If Hamilton is uncomfortable with the car's handling, he may burn through his tires faster than Leclerc. That would leave him vulnerable during the race, forcing him to pit earlier or lose grip in the closing laps. But what if this isn't just a technical issue? Ferrari has publicly stated that both drivers will have equal status, but history tells a different story. Schumacher had complete control over the team. Alonso dictated Ferrari's strategy. Vettel was always prioritized over Raikkonen. Now, with Leclerc being the long-term face of Ferrari, has the team naturally built the car around him? Did Ferrari expect Hamilton to simply adapt without making changes to suit his style? Hamilton has limited time to fix these issues. If he can't adjust before qualifying, he risks being stuck in the midfield, a disastrous start to his Ferrari career. And in Melbourne, falling behind means survival mode rather than a fight for the win. The worst-case scenario? Hamilton fails to reach Q3. He starts behind Red Bull, McLaren, and possibly even Mercedes. Instead of aiming for victory, his weekend turns into damage control. If Hamilton doesn't react quickly, Leclerc could establish himself as Ferrari's clear #1 driver from the very first race. Time is running out for Hamilton. While he's still searching for the right balance in the SF-25, his main rivals, Leclerc, Red Bull, and McLaren, are already looking strong. If Ferrari doesn't find a quick solution, they risk falling behind their competition before the season even gains momentum. Can Hamilton turn this around? There's no denying that Hamilton has a history of adapting to challenges. He has proven time and again that he can overcome adversity, whether it was his early years at McLaren or his dominance with Mercedes. But this time, the challenge is different. He's stepping into a team that has built its philosophy around Leclerc. He has to adjust to an entirely new driving style. He has very little time to make these changes before the season starts. If he and his engineers can find the right setup, he can still fight for podiums and victories. But if they can't, this season could turn into a frustrating battle for survival rather than a title-contending campaign. The defining moment: Australian Grand Prix. This isn't just the first race of the season, it's a crucial test for Hamilton. If he can close the gap in qualifying, he keeps himself in the fight. But if he remains behind Leclerc and the other frontrunners, the Melbourne race could become an uphill battle. The worst-case scenario? Hamilton struggles to make it into the top 10 in qualifying. He starts behind Red Bull and McLaren. Instead of fighting for the win, he's stuck in the midfield, trying to minimize the damage. If things don't change fast, Ferrari might naturally start prioritizing Leclerc, intentionally or not. Will Hamilton be able to turn things around, or has Leclerc already taken control of Ferrari? The Australian Grand Prix is not just another race, it's a defining moment for Lewis Hamilton's future with Ferrari. The first qualifying session of the season will reveal whether he can adapt quickly or if this transition will be a long and painful struggle. The numbers tell the story. Hamilton's struggle in free practice has already raised concerns. While Leclerc looked in complete control of the SF-25, Hamilton was left searching for answers. The gap between the two in practice may not seem massive, but in Formula One, every fraction of a second counts. Free practice 1. Hamilton finished 12th, a worrying 0.6 seconds behind Leclerc. Free practice 2. He improved to 5th place, but the gap to Leclerc remained at 0.4 seconds. In a sport where margins are razor-thin, that's the difference between fighting for a podium and struggling in the midfield. If Hamilton cannot close this gap in qualifying, he risks starting from a disadvantaged position on race day. Why qualifying matters. More than ever, Melbourne's Albert Park circuit is notorious for being difficult to overtake on. If Hamilton qualifies too far back, his race could turn into an exercise in damage control rather than a serious challenge for victory. Best-case scenario: he finds the right balance in time for qualifying, secures a front-row start, and puts himself in contention for a strong result. Worst-case scenario: he gets knocked out in Q2 and starts deep in the pack, making his race an uphill battle from the beginning. A bigger problem than just one race? If Ferrari's car remains more suited to Leclerc's style, Hamilton could be fighting an uphill battle all season. This isn't just about Melbourne, it's about the entire championship. If he doesn't adapt quickly, Ferrari may naturally start favoring Leclerc as their best shot at the title. Qualifying will give us the first real indication of where Hamilton stands. Will he rise to the challenge, or will Ferrari's new era begin with a harsh reality check for the 7-time world champion? Part 5. The pressure mounts on Hamilton. With just hours remaining before the crucial qualifying session, all eyes are on Lewis Hamilton. His transition to Ferrari was expected to be challenging, but few anticipated such an uphill battle right from the start. The SF-25 is proving to be a completely different beast, and Hamilton is struggling to tame it. A battle against time. In Formula One, adaptation is key. Some drivers need a few races to settle in, while others can immediately extract the best from their car. For Hamilton, the clock is ticking. The longer he takes to adjust, the more Ferrari could lean towards Leclerc as their main contender. Key concern: if Hamilton doesn't match Leclerc in qualifying, Ferrari's strategy team could begin favoring the Monegasque driver early in the season. Potential consequence: if he qualifies behind both McLaren and Red Bull, his race could turn into damage limitation rather than an aggressive push for victory. Ferrari's internal politics. Will history repeat itself? Ferrari insists both. Drivers will receive equal opportunities. However, history tells a different story. The Scuderia has always had a preference for a clear number one driver. Michael Schumacher had full team support during his reign. Fernando Alonso dictated team strategy in his era. Sebastian Vettel was prioritized over Kimi Räikkönen. Now, with Leclerc deeply embedded in the Ferrari system, it raises the question: was the SF-25 designed more for him than for Hamilton? If so, the seven-time champion could find himself in a difficult position. Hamilton's race against himself. Hamilton is no stranger to adversity. He has made comebacks before, defied expectations, and rewritten records. But this challenge is different. He is up against a car that doesn't suit him, a teammate who is thriving, and a team that might not wait for him to catch up. If he doesn't deliver in qualifying, the consequences could be severe. A poor grid position will force him into a defensive race, while Leclerc fights for victory at the front. The question now is simple. Can Hamilton prove he still has what it takes, or will Ferrari's focus shift towards Leclerc sooner than expected?